Welcome back, everybody. Today we have our guest, David Spitzfaden. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. This is probably the latest interview I've had so far. So just the differences between East Coast and West Coast. So just to kick it off, tell us a little bit, tell us how you started making music.
Well, I've always been kind of involved in arts and stuff like that. And I, ever since, like, my mom used to be like a music church director. And so I was always kind of around it like that, but she would always, I think where it like really started was when I was like really young. Like how I got like interested, like music kind of like became a part of me was, there was this one time where I was watching the Wiggles, like on TV, right?
Yeah.
And my mom, she came in and she sat there for a second. She kind of listened to it and she was like, okay, like it's good for children, but like I don't want my son to think this is like what good music is.
Yeah.
So instead, she like took me back. Well, not took me back, but like she I think she switched off the Wiggles, went and grabbed her like Michael Jackson like music video DVD, like full of music videos, threw that on and would have me watch that instead. So I knew what like good music and good dancing was.
Yeah.
So I think that's all kind of where it started. But yeah, then I did like theater and stuff like that in middle school and high school. And I tried sports here and there, but it just wasn't my thing, like, ever. Like, I really, really didn't. I mean, they were fun, but, like, I just didn't connect with it at all. And when I started doing theater, it kind of started to get a little bit clearer. But it was really once I started playing guitar when I was, like, 15 that it really, like, I don't know, it turned into less of, like, a hobby and more of something I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, man. So, I checked out just a little bit of your music, and it was very, very unique. I gave you my opinion on it before we even started. But how did you discover your sound?
It's tough. I mean, it was like a lot of like trial and error, you know, which I think is necessary. I think people try to grasp their sound a little too fast sometimes.
Yeah.
And they try to like just stick to one thing, but like I find it really fun to try different styles out all the time. Like I love for a while I was just doing like purely like more rock and like, you know, blues stuff, and then, you know, I really started to kind of let my funk my funk wings fly.
Yeah.
And then I started to like really like R&B and soul and and so like I just let myself do that, you know? And it's kind of started to hone in a little bit, but it's so interesting because it always changes. Like every time I write a new song, I'm like, this is totally different from the last one. So like it's never consistent, you know? But I kind of like that. Because I'm never bored, you know. I'm never like, oh, this just sounds like the last song, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think it was a really gradual process of like letting myself explore a little bit. Because I thought that was important. I thought letting myself, you know, listen to music and try to emulate some stuff. And like if I heard a cool R&B song, I was like, oh, I want to write a cool R&B tune now, and like I'll go and try to write a cool R&B tune. So
you sound exactly like me. So that's pretty cool.
There you go. Yeah.
So, at what point did you decide that you're gonna actually take this serious? Like you said, I know you said that you realized it was more than just a hobby, but it was a passion of yours. But at what point did you decide that you were going to make this like a career for yourself?
Yeah, I remember it very distinctly because it was like one day I remember I had played like a couple live shows. So like my high school had two concerts during the year. They had this one at the beginning of the year called Rock the Hill that they'd put on, and like any bands from the school could come and play. And then in the spring they had this thing called a benefit concert where we would choose a charity, and we'd put on a concert, and all the funds that we got from the concert would go towards that charity. And so it was at that one that I had my first performance with like a band.
Yeah.
Like I had always like done theater, so I'd performed in theater and stuff like that. But the first time I performed with a band was that night, and like a year later, I think I was 16 when I first played with a band. And it was about a year and a half after me starting to play guitar. But it was once I turned 17, I was starting to get actual gigs like out and about.
Yeah.
Like I was starting to like play at like you know, bars and breweries and like some like showcase events, you know.
Yeah.
And so I remember it was at this thing that goes on around here. You know, I live in San Diego, so there's this town near here called Fallbrook. And there's this guy, his name is Kenneth, and he puts on these Six String Society, like his company's called Six String Society, and they put on this like, they put on these shows, and like either if it's in San Diego, he calls it San Diego Live, or if it's in Fallbrook, he calls it Fallbrook Live.
Yeah.
And so it was at this thing called Fallbrook Live, and I just messaged him because I went to see one the month before, and it only happens once a month. So I went to see one the month before, and I was like, oh, that'd be so cool. Like I should try and, get a band together and play for that,
Oh, wow.
Just like a bass player and a drummer and me on guitar.
Yep.
And so I went to him and I was like, hey, I messaged him. I was like, hey, Kenneth, like, do you mind if I perform? And he was like, yeah, totally. You get like you get 15-minute set, so you can play like 3 or 4 songs. And I was like, okay, cool. So I signed up for that. I played, and I had the best time because like after I was done, the guy who was like, because I usually have like a main act of the show that plays at the beginning and it plays at the end. Mm-hmm. And that guy like asked me to like come up and sit in with him like after like towards the end. And I that was like one of my first live gigs like out and about, and I was already like getting asked by like the header to like come and play with him, like just sit in.
At that time it was like cover songs too, like you guys were like a cover band type of thing, or that was all
I think I had like one original song I would play, like one, but I would have like one original, and then I'd have like I played probably like 3 or 4 covers, I think.
That's pretty cool.
And then it was that the next morning, I remember, because I was planning to study theater. Like I was planning to go to school, get my BFA in theater and performing arts. But it was that next morning, I think I got up and I went over to my mom, and I was like, I don't think I want to study theater. Like because we were already looking into colleges and stuff like that. And I was like, I think I want to like play music like for the rest of my life. And my mom was like, I think so too. And I was like, okay, wow. Cool. And that's what's great about both my parents, that they've always been super supportive of it. And I've had their full support, which is awesome, because I know some kids don't get that.
Yeah, it must really help to have like the support of your parents to pursue a career that's, it's not really promising. Everyone is trying to, it's very saturated, oversaturated.
Especially now.
Especially now with social media and all the tools we have on the internet. It's like you're a dime a dozen. So you really got to put the work in and be okay with being poor every now and then. Yeah. I'm definitely okay with that at this point. So Dave, tell me about your songwriting process. How do you write songs?
That is also kind of interesting to answer, because it's so different every time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like people, there's people who start out and they're like, what's the equation? Like, what's the perfect equation? Like, what's the, like what, how do you do it? Like, yeah, exactly. And there's none. Like, there's people who have created methods and stuff like that. And of course there's like theory behind it, but it really depends on who you are as a person and what you find most comfortable doing.
Yeah.
And,
do you have to be in like a particular place? You know what I mean? Do you like to be outside, on vacation, at home, in your room, in your bedroom? Like what gets you inspired to like create?
Yeah, I don't know. It really, okay. So like if I've been writing a song and inside, like let's say I write a lot of my music in this room right here. If I'm writing a song inside and I feel really stuck, like, sometimes I was writing this song a couple like a month or two ago, and I remember it took me like 3 or 4 weeks to finish. It was tough. It was really, really tough for me to finish. I don't know why. I just couldn't find something that satisfied me in writing it. But I remember, but I'd always try to write it at like 2 or 3 a.m. Right? I tried to like, 'cause I stay up till like 4 every night. So like I was trying to write it from like 1 to 3 a.m. sometime, Yeah. And I just wasn't, I got the verses done, but it was the chorus that just kept not feeling right. I wrote probably like 2 or 3 choruses for the song, like, but they just didn't feel right. So I didn't want to stop, I felt like there was something better.
Yeah.
And it took me, and then I realized, I was like, maybe I should get out of the house. Maybe I should get out of this room. This room feels confining in this sense. I'm gonna go. And I went to the beach because I live like 10 minutes from it. And I drove down there. I think it was like midday. It was like 2 or 3 p.m. I drove down there, went and sat on the beach with my guitar, sat there for about 20 or 30 minutes, and wrote the chorus that I finalized the song with. And so it was this weird thing of like I needed to take myself out of this space to go over there. But there's also been times where like I was on a hike one time and off of my album the live album that I put out with like the videos and stuff like that. There's a song on there called You, and that one I wrote completely while on a hike. I just wrote it all in my head. I got the I got that groove in my head while I was walking. And then I was like, and then I started like kind of writing lyrics to it and like trying to figure out like, you know, and I just did that all on like a 2-hour hike. And then by the time I got home, I was able to just transfer it over and, you know, figure out, you know, what the chords were that corresponded with the melody that I was writing and kind of the chords I was hearing in my head. And, you know, so like it really depends on the situation, because I've written songs in all types of ways. I've written songs where the lyrics came first and then I wrote a melody and put the chords to it, or the melody came first or the chords came first. It's just like, or I've written to a track. I've written to, it's just like, I've done it a lot, you know, and like every time it seems to differ in some way, you know?
To me, it sounds like for you, it's better to just let it flow, let it happen, find new ways to let it happen. There's no concrete way that you're trying to accomplish your music.
No, actually, yeah, and that's a really good point that you brought up, is like letting it flow. Like a lot of people, like they try to make the perfect song every time. They try to make the best song that they can possibly make every time. And sometimes they'll throw away stuff because they think it's stupid. Like their first initial thought, they think, oh, it's stupid. But I remember it's a curse, right? You write this line out and you go, that's stupid, I'm not going to use it. And then you throw it away, right? And you try to find a better one. But I actually did this masterclass with Jason Mraz, which was one of the coolest things I've ever done. But he was telling us, it was like a group of like 12 of us. We were in a masterclass with him. And he was saying like, you know, he writes a song every day. He takes the time out of his day to write a song every day. Write and finish a song every day. And he says it doesn't matter if it's stupid. It doesn't matter if it, you know, sounds weird. It doesn't matter if it's like something you've written before or sounds very similar. Like, just finish the song. Like, don't let yourself, you know, don't hinder yourself because you think what you're writing is stupid. Just finish it. And then if you like it enough, you can go back and you can revise and then you can go through. But he just finishes the song. He gets it done. And then if he still likes it by the time he's done with it, he'll go back and he'll revise and stuff like that. And I thought that was really, really interesting. I was like, yeah, I mean, like if you're stuck on the line, just leave the line that you already have in there and then like go forward and keep letting that creativity flow. You don't want to like lose that, you know?
Yeah. You don't want to let your technical side take over your creative side. And sometimes I get stuck in that bubble when I want something to sound a certain way. And it's funny you said that, but sometimes I would have to go and leave a beat and come back to it. And it's funny, it happened before. Like there was a beat that I was working on that I liked, but then I couldn't finish and get to where I wanted it to be. So I left, and a couple of days I came back and I just had like a billion ideas. It was like, wow. So
yeah. And that works too, you know. Like sometimes you just have to let it go. You just have to be like, okay, I'm not gonna worry about it anymore. I'm just gonna let my mind. I'll go work on something else, you know. Yeah. I'll come back and I'll work on it again and make it better.
Yeah,
so,
man.
Yeah.
So, do you have any songwriters or artists that you see as your primary inspirations?
Yeah. I think I really started writing songs a little bit more seriously because I wrote a few songs when I was like 17, and I have an EP that I released when I was 18, when I was recording when I was 17, and I did it in studio. I saved up all the money, all that fun stuff. I worked at Legoland for 3 months as a lifeguard there and saved up like a couple grand and then recorded it all in studio.
Nice.
It was the most miserable summer ever, but and I can only say that because I'm never planning to go back to work at Legoland again. It was just, I mean, the lifeguarding is fine. Like it just wasn't for me. I'm not trying to bash on Legoland at all.
No.
Like the people there, you know, like the managers and yeah. Sorry, no, what were you gonna say?
Go ahead, you're good.
Okay, yeah, like the managers in there, the people who work there, like run the place, like they're great, like they were great people. Nothing against them, nothing against like the company of Legoland, but it was like just me being, because I'm such a creative person, so like walking along the edge of like a pool for like 5 to 6 hours a day was just like while listening to like the soundtrack that they had playing on repeat for like hours on one day, where I heard like Brown Eyed Girl and like these things on repeat. Like it just wasn't for me. It drove me mad. But that had nothing to do with the company. But but yeah, so I recorded it, and those are some of my first songs, and I just wasn't taking it that seriously. But it was once I started listening to like and those kind of came from artists those inspirations came more from artists like Zeppelin, like Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Eric Clapton, people like that, like older generation, like music, right? But it was really when I started listening to like John Mayer, and more seriously, like because I used to listen to Michael Jackson when I was younger, but I started listening to him more recently, when I was like 17, 18, 19, like I started listening to him seriously again, and I was like, wow, this guy knew how to write songs. And of course he had songwriters that wrote with him, but he just knew, and I studied him. I was like, all these guys like John Mayer, Michael Jackson, like people like D'Angelo, in terms of like R&B. And then I used to love like hip hop and rap when I was like in elementary school. And I kind of lost that in middle school because I got into this like dubstep phase. Not proud of that. And then I got into like rock and roll, and that was like all the way up until like my junior year of high school was I listening to like Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, all that stuff. And that's when I discovered John Mayer and kind of branched out a little bit more. And I remember it was like right as I got to college, I was like, I loved hip hop and rap. Like, why don't I listen to it more? And so I started getting into like Mac Miller, and I'd say he's one of my favorites, and in terms of like songwriting, his writing is beautiful, and I look to him for lyrical inspiration all the time. Because his stuff is just so good. Yeah, he really is, and I'm glad you agree. I've seen so many people now, like on TikTok actually, like they have like, how they do those 10, like they have like the audio, it has like 10 different rappers on it, and they have like all 10 of them, like, and they rank them, right? These people are always putting Mac Miller at like 7 or 8. I'm like, you guys obviously do not listen to that guy. Like, well,
here's the thing with Mac Miller. The way he started his career and where he left it was two different Mac Millers. He started it with like kind of this almost cocky teenage kid type of thing, and then he jumped into like the boom bap era, which I gave respect to. Then he got really melodic, and that's where I think he grew and became the artist that people really like.
Absolutely.
So if you just take away the whole Kids album, no. I really did enjoy when he went off and got melodic and started to sing and do stuff like that, because that was very unique. Not a lot of people are doing that, especially in hip hop.
Absolutely, I think like Good AM On is like some of his best work he's ever yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, man, I've been a huge fan, and it was more recent because once I heard the Kids album, I was like, I know Mac Miller, he's okay. And then out of nowhere, you know what I mean? He was just like getting melodic, making songs with Anderson .Paak and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is interesting.
I know, he's cool like that. And Kendrick too. That's somebody I've been listening to more recently. And like, I'm not a rapper at any degree. I mean, I've been trying to like kind of dabble in it because I've always loved it, and I feel like I could. It's not that I'm, actively pursuing it, but I'm trying to get better at it. Cause like, if I ever was to do something like that, like I'd want to do it justice, I don't want to, do it stupid.
I have a question. Well, how do you feel about today's music climate? What are your thoughts on how the music industry is structured and basically coming up in the game, coming up in the rank? Well, what's your opinion about just the music climate? 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough. Honestly, it's really tough. I think it's always been kind of hard, but it definitely was easier to like get a record deal or get a following. Back in like the 60s and 70s, like it was super cheap to go on tour. Gas was cheap. Like there is and venues weren't as what do you call it, like exclusive.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of like bigger venues are more exclusive nowadays, like or they require that they won't just book you, and if you have a flop show, they nowadays, like, you have to sell a certain number of tickets, for a show. So like there's like this incentive, like you have to like set like you have to sell like 25 tickets, and then you give all that profit to the venue, and then the rest of the tickets that you sell is your profit, and it's like it's tough because like some people only have 15 or 20 people who would come out and see them, and so usually they're either out like some money, and it's tough because like you want to get out there and you want to perform and stuff like that, but you really have to take these kind of like awful gigs sometimes, to and that don't pay well, and it's really tough because like you want to have respect for yourself and you want to have respect for your art, but to get yourself out there, sometimes you have to take that $100 gig for 3 hours, and it's tough. And it's really tough, especially for like the actively gigging musician. Of course, they had like showcases and stuff like that, which is easier. But in terms of like the getting there, in terms of like performing, like I feel like there is like some weird exclusivity. But it also makes you want to work harder. Like if you're good enough, you're gonna bring the people out. So, and that's always been my mentality. Like I never see it as a discouraging thing. I never see it as like, okay, like this is a tough venue to get into, like whatever, I'll just give up. It's like, no, I got to work harder. I got to get the people to follow me. That way, when I go to that venue, I can, blow their socks off, you know? Yeah. But I mean, it's really tough. I think some of the streaming platforms, kind of cheaping out on paying their artists is really discouraging.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate, because we put a lot of time and effort into it, and it's you don't get much back from the streaming platforms and stuff like that. So it's a little tough on that end, and it's so weird the way like record labels work. Like usually like you'd be signed like to get on a record label, to even get noticed by one first is tough. But then once you're usually not signed straight to Atlantic. You're usually not signed straight to Capitol. Yeah. You're usually signed to their sub labels. Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting because now you have to prove yourself once. You already had to prove yourself once. Now you have to prove yourself again. And then once you get signed to if you get signed to the actual label, then you have to prove yourself a third time. So you almost have to prove yourself like multiple times. And it's this weird like untrusting that like, but I get it because like these companies, they gave a lot of money to bands in like the 70s and the 80s and just like built up these artists, and they had a lot of really good successful ones, but they also had a lot of flops. So they lost a lot of money. Yeah. So I get why they're a little bit more careful about who they bring on, and they're very exclusive about who they sign on. But I find it so interesting that there's this revolution of like indie artists who are, coming up and not doing it with a label and making their money, and and often most of those people, they eventually sign to a label. Yeah. But it's so interesting how, social media has completely changed the way you can reach out. Cause like back in like, even in just 2000, like early 2000s, like you wouldn't be able to post about your song on TikTok and have it blow up in overnight, it just wouldn't happen. But now, like you would have to, in those times, you'd have to get a record label, and then the record label would promote you and put you on billboards and TV commercials and interview shows and put you on late shows, and they'd try to get you to be an artist. But now they almost expect you to do it first and get your following, and then they'll start to look at signing you, you know? It's almost flipped. It's like almost in a complete 180, and I don't know how I feel about it, but, I try not to complain about things that are tough. This is a tough thing. Yeah. I try not to complain about things that are tough. I just accept that that's the environment I'm in, and then I just work with it, and do my best to navigate that,
Yeah, man, I completely agree. It's almost like you have to do all the things that a record label used to do for you back in the day. Now, you have to figure out how you're going to promote your stuff, make the music sound good, find the engineers, find literally all the resources, grow a fan base, and then maybe you'll be considered with a following.
Maybe.
Yeah, right.
Keyword maybe.
So I have another question. What was the best method for promotion in your case so far?
So far, what I've had best promotion?
Yeah, like what do you do to promote your music to people? You know what I mean?
I'm getting better at it. I've never really. It's tough for me to sell myself. Like I'm really like, I hate talking about myself and being like I'm the greatest thing you'll ever hear. Like I hate talking like that. You know.
Yeah.
I like to try and stay as humble as possible when it comes to that stuff. I know that I'm good. I know that I can do this, and I know that like to an extent I could sell myself. Like if somebody was like, why are you a better guitar player than this other guy? I'd be like, okay, you know, and explain that, and I could, but. You know, I've often found like trying to play live is really, really, really good. Because, you know, especially if you it's funny, like you'd think making CDs would not be a smart move, but, you know, when I released my little EP when I was like 18, which was, you know, I'll be 21 this year, so it was only like 3 years ago. I made CDs for it. I made 200 CDs and I gigged for about a year. Until I went to college, and then I wasn't gigging as actively down in the San Diego area, but I gigged for about a year, and I sold like 75% of those CDs over that year, you know, and the CDs I think I paid for 200. I think I paid somewhere around like $1,200 for the CDs, right? Yeah. And I sold them for like $10 a pop. And so if you calculate that, that's like, 10 times 150, that's $1,500
Wow.
that came into my pocket from like making those CDs and stuff like that. So I basically made back my money, and I still, you know, if I had kept going, I could have sold those other 50 and made a $500 profit off of that, you know? And like in terms of like profit, like that was a great move on my part, because I had something to sell. I had something that people would buy, even if they didn't have a CD player. I had people buying it because they were like, I know one day like you're gonna be famous, and like I want to have your CD, and then they have me sign it, and I'm like, I'm 18, I don't know what you're talking about, thank you, you know. And it's just cool to have that kind of stuff, and just getting out there, and like, because like you might reach people, like people could just be walking by where you're playing, and they'd hear you and they go, oh, I kind of like the sound of that, and stop and go, you know. And that's an experience that you can't get on any kind of social media, you know, because people don't pay attention as much on social media, you know. Often they'll scroll, and it's that one thing that's like, oh, this sounds really good, and then they'll listen to it, you know. And but you know, often they're just scrolling, but like when you're walking by, you know, you don't have a 1-second clip that you can skip real quick. You're walking by, you hear it coming, and as you're walking by it, you also hear it right next to you, and then you have all this time to think about the music that's playing and go, oh, I actually want to stick around and listen to that, and there you go, you have a new fan, you know. And so playing live, I think, is a really good promotion. And then, you know, there's some cool like pages on Instagram and stuff like that I found that, you know, you can pay for promotions and stuff like that. As much as that feels a little cheap, you know, and then feels a little like, sometimes it can feel a little like, oh, like I don't want to pay for an advertisement, but it's like everybody pays for advertisemement. You know, like that's how you get your face up on a billboard, you pay for it. And those are great because they have this, it's like marginalized, you know, like you have this group of people that follow that page, and all of a sudden you're being promoted on it, and like if you usually want to look at the page and make sure they're getting enough like, you know, traffic. You know, you don't want to like pay for an advertisement on a page that, you know, has, I don't know, like 10 followers and gets like 1 like per photo. You know, like, but like I promoted it on a page called Guitars Daily on Instagram. One of my Kisses in the Morning. One of the songs that's also on the live album. And I remember I got like the post got somewhere, I think it was a couple thousand likes, and I got like a couple hundred 150 followers from it. Wow. You know, just from that one promotion, you know. And so imagine if I put it on like 10 different pages, you know, and like how much, you know, and just to continue doing that, and do it like when the iron's hot, like right when you release that music, make sure you got a promotion like lined up waiting to like go. And like there's all these cool advertisement things on social media. Like it's a really cool tool. It's a really cool tool.
I would just suggest to make sure that these pages are legit, because there are a lot of pages that are run by bots and stuff like that.
Do your research.
For
Do
sure.
your research. Talk to the person a little bit. Make sure it's a real person running it, and then you can be a little bit more, okay with it. But yeah, definitely be careful about it. Don't just don't just pay every page you see, and use PayPal. Use things that are like not your actual credit card info. Like use Venmo or use PayPal, something that they can't steal your money from.
Yep, I agree. So, Dave, what do you like to do for fun outside of working on music? What's your thing?
Yeah, I mean that's always fun to me because like music is my fun thing. Like that's my main thing. Like if I'm not doing anything else, like I used to play video games and stuff like that, and sometimes I do, but like I've found that like when I play video games, I'll get distracted a little too much and I won't make music. And although video games is really good if you just want to be like brain dead, which is nice sometimes. Sometimes it's really nice to just not think about anything but a game or something like that. But I love hiking. I love like working out and stuff like that. I've been really getting into fitness because like my family has some like past issues. Like I think both my grandpa and my great grandpa died of a heart attack. Oh, wow. So like I know that like unhealthiness and like heart failure runs in my family. So I've been trying to just get really good at keep myself healthy, and that has also been fun working out and like seeing the results because like you see results pretty fast. At least from my body type, I see results pretty fast. So that's been really fun to me. I love skating. Me and my friends, we skate all the time, and I'm not that great. Like if you asked me if I was like gonna go to like SLS or like go to the or go to like the Olympics, I'd be like not even a chance, man. But I still love it. It's just fun to cruise and stuff like that, and just hanging out with friends and stuff like that. It's important. Yeah. It's really important. Like it's important to lock yourself in your room and write your songs sometimes, but it's also really important to get out in the world and do other things because that's where you get your inspiration from.
That's how you write songs, right?
Yeah, exactly. Look around, like listen to conversations, like have conversations with people and really listen to them and really try to like gain some cool like. I don't know, like people say stuff that is poetic all the time, and you won't even notice it unless you're really listening for it. And you can steal, like, there's no law against stealing somebody's words that they said to you in a conversation. You could steal that and make a song out of it,
Yeah.
And if you don't go out and you just stay inside your house all day, like, of course, be safe with COVID and stuff like that if you're not vaccinated, and if you're vaccinated, like keep it safe in that sense too. But like, going out and having conversations and looking at the world and people watching, and don't stalk people, but people watch, and it's really good to do that kind of stuff because, you'll see stuff and it's just like, take a step back and look at the world around you. Cause there's a lot of information and inspiration that you might not notice if you just zoom past it all the time, or stay in your house all day.
Yeah, I completely agree. That being said, man, I know like you like to do a lot of live shows, and that's how you've been meeting people. What have you done to like replace doing live shows since this whole COVID pandemic?
Dude, it was tough. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Just like any other musician, it was really, really tough for me.
Yeah.
Because I was really like I was busy 24/7. I was really on this performance high, almost all the time because I was gigging 2 or 3 times a week. Before COVID stopped. Wow. Stopped it all. And I was hot off of not November of last year, but November of 2019. I got invited to go on a tour to Europe where I got to play guitar in this blues band. They just liked the way I was playing guitar, and they invited me to go play guitar for them in Europe. And while they went on the tour, because their normal guitar player couldn't do it, and they tried a bunch of other people, they just couldn't find it, and they met me in the middle of their search of looking for a guitar player, and they were like, they saw me play once, and they were like, dude, can you go on tour? And I was like, yeah, obviously. Like, no, I'm good, right. But so like I jumped on that tour, and it was the coolest thing. We flew into Belgium. Played the first night we played a festival in Belgium, huge. It was like I think there was like 2,000 people there. And then like the next night we played, out of the 10 days I was there, we played 8 of them, 8 nights, and we had one break in the middle, but Oh no, it was 7 nights because we took one break in the middle of the week. But it was like we played. It was just crazy. Like because like Europe's pretty small. The countries are small, so you can drive through Germany and France in the same day. It's cool. But like we were stopping. We went to Belgium, and then we went to the Netherlands, and then we went back to Belgium, and then we went to Luxembourg, and it was just cool to like be able to see, and it's so interesting. People in Europe are so much more invested in music.
Yeah.
Like here for like live music, like if you go to see somebody, you're gonna look around in that venue, and a lot of the times people are on their phones or they're talking, or which is fine. But like in Europe, they are just absolutely. You are what they're there to see, and they are paying attention. I remember and they just appreciate it so much more. They cheer, they yell, they have a blast, and like they do crazy things for it. Like there was this restaurant that we played when I was there with them, and it was probably meant for like 150 people.
Yeah.
Like if you walked in there, you'd be like, okay, maybe you could seat 150 people. I swear they packed 350 people into that room, and it was like people on the walls, like people all packed in, like people were trying to eat dinner, but then people were standing around them, and they packed in the place, and these people, everybody was just focused. Like it was us, and it was the coolest thing. I was like, nobody ever does this in America, and it was so weird coming back to America and it being so lackluster in terms of the people.
Yeah, right.
But it was just the coolest thing to kind of get that. And then when I came back, I was playing with them, doing my own gigs, playing in LA and San Diego, like traveling back and forth all the time because I was living in LA and I was going to school in LA. And I was, coming back and forth and having to drive up and down the coast like 2 or 3 times, like a week, and it was awesome. And then COVID hit, and a very long-winded way of saying that I became depressed.
No, I enjoyed the story.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. And it was so weird for me because I was so like, I remember we played on everything kind of shut down right after St. Patrick's Day. Like everything, it was like on the 17th, I think, because I think St. Patrick's Day was 16th, right? Or was it the 17th? Whatever. But like it was I think it was like the 17th that was St. Patrick's Day, whatever. I don't care. Anyway, the day after St. Patrick's Day, it was a Sunday, I remember. And that Monday was the day that they were like, shut everything down, like everything's closed, like, and all our gigs got canceled. But we played a show on the St. Patrick's Day. I remember we'd get off the stage and be talking about how well the performance was, but instead like we were talking about all the gigs getting canceled, and that we thought it was worse because like the government wasn't telling us how bad COVID was at first. Yeah. And then it was like after that, I remember we were talking about that. We were like, we think we're not getting all the information here. Like we think it's worse than it actually is. And then that next day they were like, yeah, it's worse than it actually is. And we were like, oh, well, and then all our gigs got canceled. And I remember that first like month and a half, I didn't even touch my instrument. Like it sat in this living room, and I just was watching movies and
trying to stay inside.
Yeah, I was just trying to keep my mind occupied, because I knew every time I touched the guitar, I'd want to be out playing, and it was tough. But then after about a month, I was like, I gotta stop moping around. Let me do a live stream. I'll do a little live stream, And I did this live stream, and it was really fun. Like I made all the backing tracks on my computer, and like did a lot of MIDI work, and kind of did like some rhythm guitar parts, and then during the live stream, I just had like this mic set up, and recorded it all into my audio interface into Logic, and had the live stream. Oh no, I didn't. No, that was later. Sorry, I did. I just kind of did it because I didn't have a microphone for my phone, so I just kind of set up my phone and just like live streamed it, and it was like. It was really fun. I mean, like it was weird because I would play and then I'd stop a song, and usually people would be like, "Woo!" But then it was just silent, and I was like. And I just, I could see people like, commenting like, in the little chat thing, like, yay. And I was like, yay, like I didn't know what to do. That got me through it a little bit. And then I started working on like an album, which really helped a lot because I was able to like focus in on music and write this thing. And that's The Boy that's out. And, I'm not, there's some songs on there that, probably I could have done better on and worked harder on, but I was just really focused on getting it out. And that's another mistake you should never do, is like, don't push something out because you just want to be done with it. Like, really make sure it's like good, like make sure you're satisfied with it. And if you're not, then don't do anything with it. Like if you listen to it back and you're like, this is just not as good as I hoped it would be, then either keep working on it or just don't use it. Like you really, it's really worth it to like take the time to like make sure once you've gotten done with like the songwriting part and you're into the production part and you're trying to make a really good recording, like just because you're not satisfied with it doesn't mean that you don't have you can't go back and work on it more. And that was my mistake with that album, is a lot of the songs on there, like not a lot of them, but like a couple of them, I tried to make, I was so focused on the number of making like a 12 song album that I really didn't focus on the quality of some of the songs. And there's probably 3 or 4 songs I would have taken off that thing, and then the rest of them I wish I just would have put more attention into them. And so, but it was fun to have that distraction for like a good 4 or 5 months of just making that thing, recording it, because I did a lot of it here in this room, and then I had to get some studio time to get some of the drums and stuff like that, because I really enjoy live musicians. Like I'm very much a sucker for live tracks and stuff like that, which is like nothing against like produced tracks. Like I've got songs where the drums are produced, and and like I'm working on some stuff right now that has MIDI drums and stuff like that. But for me, what I've just always loved playing with a band and like having that human that humanness to the track, because it really does bring forth this specialness about it. So I recorded that album, and I was just kind of just trying to distract myself, and I really did a lot of like soul searching and like reflection time. I think everyone did. And that was the reason why I even started this podcast. That's awesome. No, that's great though. Like you had time to like, you had time that you wouldn't have like been able to have had COVID not come around. Because now you couldn't go out all the time, so you have to stay inside, and during that time, like, it allows you to think more, and that's something that you might not have noticed had COVID not happened, that there was a desire for you to do something like this.
Creativity comes from being bored sometimes. It forces you to think and do something out of the ordinary. So, Dave, do you have any advice for any someone trying to pursue being a musician such as yourself?
Work for it. Like, really just work hard. Like, it's if you're good and you work on your skill and you get yourself to be really good, and like you really make yourself the best version of like an artist that you can be, or a musician, or anything of that sorts, it becomes less of a trying to be better, and like, I don't know, like it becomes more of a waiting game than it does anything else. If you really put forth the work, the effort, the time, the practice, all that, like if you really put forth all that, like it becomes a waiting game. It's no longer trying to convince people that you're good, because I think a lot of people waste a lot of their time trying to convince people that they're good, and then they're not using that time to just be relaxed into what they're doing, And so like, put that work and get good. Like, don't try to convince people you're good. Just do the work to be good, and then you won't have to convince anybody. It'll just come naturally. And it's like, put in that work. Don't take the easy way out on anything. Like, do not. Like, it's really like I've been playing guitar for about 5.5 years now, and I would play for 6. Like, when I first started, like, I think after the first year, like, I would play for like 6 or 7 hours a night. Like, and that's how I got, so good in such a short amount of time, is because I went full on, like, dug into it, like, dug my heels in, was like, I know I'm bad, but I need to get better, and like, and I put in the work, because like, there's no shortcut to like anything. No. Songwriting, there's no shortcut to it. Guitar, there's no shortcut to it. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want, but if you truly want to be a good guitar player, like take the time and study every aspect of it. Study reading, study theory, study all that stuff. It's like very helpful and it makes you better. And same with songwriting, like practice songwriting. Like people get so discouraged after they write their first song and it sucks. It's like, obviously your first song sucks. Like every painter's first painting sucks, you know, and every writer's first story sucks, and every poet's first poem sucks. Obviously, like you haven't had any practice. You know, people don't think like arts are like anything else. Like they think it's such as like unachievable. Like you have to be this like prodigy, you know, to be good. And it's like, no, you put in the work like sports players do, and you put in the work like doctors do. Like you have to study it. You have to get good at it, you know? Like you think like somebody like, LeBron James was a natural born basketball player at 4 or 5? No, he probably was bad at basketball, at some point in his life, but it's because of the work he put in, the practice and the effort. It's just the same with songwriting. Like you have to put in the practice and practice writing songs. That's why like finishing a song, even if it's bad, your next one's going to be better. Like it's just like, so, I mean, I guess if I were to sum it all up, it would really be like, just put in the work, put in the effort, and your time will come. Your time will come, and it's going to be when you least expect it, but that the time will come for you to shine, and you have to take that opportunity.
Yeah, I completely agree. And before we wrap this up, Dave, do you think you're going to strive to be an independent artist, or are you going to try to pursue working for a major label?
As of now, I'm really working on like the independent artistry because that's what's necessary to get that label thing. So I really want to get used to kind of being my own artist and doing the work all for myself.
Yeah.
And then when it comes time to where I might be gaining the attention of record labels or something of that sorts, then I'll consider it. That's always been kind of the route I've been looking for, is one day to get a record label and to, be signed and, not have to worry about a lot of the promotional stuff anymore and stuff like that. And so I think that's my end goal, is to be signed and to be, but, signed in a good way, not just like, I'm not just going to sign the first record label deal I get, I'm going to have a lawyer look at it. And if it's not a good deal, like I'll not sign it, and I'll keep working and I'll keep pushing. Like people always think like their first, I study songwriting in school. And so like a lot of the teachers, there are, successful songwriters and stuff like that. And a lot of them have stories about how the first record deal they signed or publishing deal that they signed was a big mistake because they lost a lot of the rights to the songs that they wrote. And that's just because they didn't focus. They didn't realize like, there's going to be other opportunities. This isn't my only one.
Yeah.
Like a good example of that is Sylvester Stallone. When he wrote Rocky, he took it to so many different studios. Like he took it to so many different producers and studios. And there was at one point where, I forget which studio it was, they offered him $400,000 for the script. But he wanted to play the role. He wanted to play Rocky, but they wanted to just buy the script off of him and then produce it themselves. But he was like, no, I want to direct it and I want to star in it. And they were like, we're not going to do that for you. And he was like, okay, cool. So he walked away from it. That was $400,000 that he walked away from. That in those times, I think Rocky came out in the 70s. In that time, $400,000 was like a lot of money. You could buy like a house and a car and fully pay them off and still have a chunk of change left over to live your life,
Yeah.
But he knew that his script and himself were worth more, and he took the time to look at those contracts and really, wanted to do it his way. And everybody has the power to do that, So yeah, I think a label is something that I eventually strive for, but it's not something that I'm,
desperate for. Yeah. Yeah, man. I completely agree. And like you have people like Russ who created a career being independent, and when he went to go sign, he had just leverage to get a deal that he wanted. So I think that's definitely a good way to look at it. So cool, Dave. Thank you for coming on. It was a dope interview. You dropped some good knowledge, and I wish you the best.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah,
thank you. You too.
I'm gonna check out your song "Kisses in the Morning."
Yeah.
Cool. Have a good night.
Thanks. All right, man. Thank you.
All right, everybody. That was Dave. I don't want to jack his last name up, but he was dope. He dropped a lot of knowledge, and I really do think that he has a passion. You know, a lot of people have it. If you're gonna do it, you have a passion for it. But he's been studying it. Like, he knows what he's talking about. You know, I asked him various questions to which he had answers to. So, good luck, man. All right, so I'm gonna put on the song "Kisses in the Morning." Let me know what you guys think about it. And until next time, see you.
She give me kisses in the morning while we're lying there in bed, and always stuck with her after, 'cause she's all in my head. And when I need her, she'll be right by my side, with her heart all open and her arms spread wide. And after a long day at work now, I know she'll be there, and I can always count on her love, 'cause I know that she cares. She give me kisses in the evening while we're lying there in bed. She give me kisses in the evening, but she's only in my head. And I'm wishing she could be more than a fantasy, a constant pillar in this here reality. How would all life could be just to have her here.